Hey friends, welcome. Today we're looking at restorative as the antidote to stress. Basically, what we're doing here throughout restorative teacher training is really like nailing or repeating that restorative really is like massive for the healing of the nervous system. And here we've got several lectures on like what is restorative, and then now like restorative is the antidote to stress, and then what I'm going to do in a little bit is like prove how that is via the nervous system. So let's look at antidote to stress, and then there'll be a little bit of a lecture on the mind as well. And hopefully you can draw all of these things together as well as recognize that they're saying the exact same thing. So essential to living well is taking time out of each day to relax and renew. And when regularly practiced, the practice will help you to heal the effects of chronic stress in as little as 5 minutes per day. Interestingly enough, the body that experiences stress has not changed over the millions of years of being human. We have these ancient bodies subjected to modern day problems living with chronic stress. Our ancestors had the same anatomical and physiological characteristics of those of us that are constantly online and do such stressful acts as driving on the freeway. So historically, stress has been a term used by physiologists in labs who measured it. Yet today, it's just commonly used in our daily language. I'm stressed out, is a familiar term that people use to describe how they live overloaded with effects of sexual health, reproduction, health, relationships, jobs, athletic performance, and most important, one's sense of self. Interestingly enough, these effects have reached epidemic proportions in our lives and have been linked to a majority of chronic illnesses. So you have already watched Heal, the documentary. And so what that is doing is just really, here we're just like putting it all together. So sometimes the effects of stress can present themselves during really milestone life events like the death of a loved one or getting a new job or married or the birth of a new child. But other times, most of the time, it's the little things that get us while juggling the myriad of responsibilities of family and job. Stress is often accompanied by one or more negative effects like frustration, impatience, irritation, muscle tension, headache, anger, poor elimination, or digestion, regardless of the trigger. And so one thing is for sure. The more stress that we encounter, the more we have, the more the effects compound within us. And when it becomes chronic, a residue builds up in the body that leads to disease. So we know this, stress can make you sick. Stress starts with a physiological response when the body-mind perceives something as life-threatening. So what we can determine here is that actually the nervous system does not know the difference between a real and a perceived threat. If you are worried, the nervous system is activated, period. So back in the day, this may have been in reaction to the aggression of a hungry animal. Yet for modern day humans, this can be the financial system. This can be a crisis with a family member. This could be simply the fear of the future. And I say it like simply the fear of the future, but like, how many times have you been stressed out about what you're going to do about something? So it is well known, stress can make you sick. And the thing about that is that regardless of the stressor, the mind alerts the body that a danger is present. So the response is that the adrenal glands then secrete catecholamines. These are hormones that act on the autonomic nervous system, preparing the body for fight or flight. Blood pressure, heart rate, mental alertness, and muscle tension are increased. And the adrenal hormones tell the body to shut down the systems that are not a priority in the moment, which includes like our reproduction, our repair, our growth, elimination, and digestion. which means like a decrease of digestive processes because they cause metabolic changes that make energy stores available to each cell, causing the body to sweat. So we have to think about this, like the idea of like ancient stressors is that the body, the nervous system is enacted or triggered to act. And then from this level of like reaction, we're supposed to have the opposite to that. So we're activated and then we're deactivated, but that's just not how it goes nowadays. So if you think about this, the adrenal hormones tell the body to shut down the systems that are not a priority in the moment. That's reproduction, okay, understandable. Also, libido, okay, when we're chronically stressed out or chronically in fight or flight, our libido goes down. We don't want to reproduce. Repair and growth. So our body cannot be in a place of repair and growth. Elimination and digestion, and the decrease in digestive processes, which can cause metabolic changes that make energy stores available to each cell, causing the body to sweat. So we have all of these reactions, but like, let's think about this. And then we don't turn them off because they're chronically activated, which is why we can get sick, because we can't be in a place of not having repair and growth. We can't be in a place of not digesting. So the body will do just what it needs to do, which actually causes a lot of issues over time. So again, we're sticking with this whole theme of like stress equals sickness. And I want you to think about this. Stress equals sickness. So these responsive, like generally they've been positive for survival of the human race. And for our ancestors, stressful situations resolved quickly. The ancestor would fight or run, and if they survived, would return to normal quite quickly. The hormones were used as they were meant to be, and then the adrenal glands stopped producing stress hormones, and then the systems that temporarily shut down resumed operation. Living in a chronically stressed environment is a result of modern man being unable to resolve stress directly. Since we can't seem to slow down and resolve our stress, the adrenal glands continue to pump these stress hormones, and the body does not benefit from nutrition because the digestion and elimination systems are slowed, and our sleep is then disturbed by this agitated state. So what is the solution? And that's it, relaxation as the solution. So in a chronic state of stress, the body's capacity to heal itself is compromised. We're establishing that, right? Either it inhibits one's recovery from already having an injury or an illness, or it helps to create a new one, including things such as ulcers, immune system dysfunction, high blood pressure, reproductive problems, and depression. So these conditions then add stress of their own, and then the cycle continues. Can you see how if you want to have a baby and it's not quite happening the way that you wanted to, that adds more stress to the situation, which makes it harder to conceive? So it's like a snowball effect that continues. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're stuck in a negative feedback loop where the negativity continues to increase the negativity. And so the antidote to it is relaxation. That's it. To relax is to rest deeply, which is different than sleep. Because think about this, like not only does deep sleep include dreaming, which actually increases muscular tension, as well as other types of tension, we don't sleep that well because we're in a chronic state of stress. So relaxation is something that we can consciously create. It is a state in which there is no effort, no movement, and the brain is quiet. And scientists have researched the effects of relaxation, And they have proven clear benefits, improved circulation, decreased muscle tension, all common to stress reduction techniques, is placing the body in a comfortable position with a focus on the breath. Seriously, that's it. Again, what is relaxation? Relaxation is placing the body in a comfortable position with a focus on the breath. In 1934, Edmund Jacobson was one of the first, I'm seeing all of these spelling mistakes, to study relaxation, and wrote about the benefits of his progressive relaxation techniques. And reported success in using his approach to treat such ailments such as indigestion, high blood pressure, insomnia, colitis, and what he termed at the time as nervousness. We can now see that as anxiety, right? So more of what to do. Well, the relaxation response is a phrase that occurs when one consciously relaxes and is described as a physiological state characterized by slower heart rate and breathing, metabolism, lower blood pressure, and slower brainwave patterns. Here we know that in medicine, the studies have shown that we are learning that chronic illnesses such as high blood pressure and heart disease are influenced by such physiological interventions as relaxation training. Because our mind and body are so connected, they have to work together. And relaxation is a powerful asset in treating medical illness. So stress is also our perception, and we have to use mindfulness to be aware and respond. So in general, there is nothing mysterious about practicing restorative poses. Just gather the props you need, set yourself up in a pleasant space, and then settle in and relax. Restorative poses place minimal metabolic demand on the body, and it adds energy instead of subtracting from it. During the times of deep relaxation, the student will be healed and nurtured from within. Each time we enter into restorative resting pose, we are definitely going to come across the mind. And when the mind is preoccupied with the stressful thoughts of worry or pain, then energy is diverted to these areas. When there is stress, certain hormones and chemical reactions are triggered from the mind. And in relation to yogic terms, vital energy gets caught up in these areas and therefore cannot revitalize the areas that need attention. So there is substantial evidence linking the mind and the immune system. And it is widely accepted that stress contributes to illness and relaxation promotes a stronger immune system. I mean, we're just going around in circles saying chronic stress makes you sick. Relaxation helps you to get better. So I like this quote by Deepak Chopra. He's talking about the mind. The mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. There is no mental event that does not have a neural correlate. There is no neural correlate that doesn't have a biological correlate. Everything in the body and mind is integrated. And it makes sense, right? Which is why we're moving into the nervous system as backup proof for you to understand why these practices are so important. If you haven't taken the Yoga Nidra and the restorative, they go so great together, like so strongly together. And here it is, there's no mental event that doesn't have some kind of a relation to the nervous system. And there is no reaction in the nervous system that isn't related to the physical body. And so everything in the body and the mind is integrated. Full on. If we look at this as Gil Hedley speaks about it, he talks about the superficial fascia being the second nervous system. And really the superficial fascia is innervated 6 times more than with neurons than any other part of our body other than our skin. And so he talks about the superficial fascia being the body mind. And he really brings this idea together about like, this is where our injury happens. If you haven't taken the anatomy course, I encourage you to do that, because all of the teachings are really interwoven and integrated. This is really like such a deep, deep understanding, such a deep processing, and so much more than just kind of like, oh, I want you to understand what's happening in the body so that you can recognize exactly, like, have such a passion for it as I do and other people do, and understanding like, whoa, this really is the answer. So stress can lower your immune system. It can cause you to eat in unhealthy ways in response to stress. It leads to depression. It increases heart disease risk factors such as high cholesterol and high blood pressure. It triggers autoimmune diseases, and it puts you at greater risk for obesity, kidney dysfunction, and heart disease. While restorative can increase your immune system function, it can support you in connecting to your body and therefore feel when you are full, notice the effects of not eating well, and know what your body needs. It can increase your capacity for healing and balance. It can boost the immune system and balance the nervous system, and it helps you to develop qualities and compassion and understanding, not just for others, but for yourself. So as mentioned, this is just a little piece of like, if you want to go through this and then also into the manual and take out some of these pieces and bring them into your class, I think this presentation or lecture as recognizing that restorative is an antidote to stress, that really stress causes sickness and relaxation counters illness, then this is kind of my intention here. I found so much in understanding, repetition to helping me to understand it on an embodied level of like exactly what it is that we're doing here today. And it's sure, like you can see it as a restorative course, and you can really just like see yourself as a restorative teacher. You can also see yourself as like someone who offers this body, like I want to say therapy, but I'm not allowed to say therapy. It's like this relation to the body. So I'm just gonna stop, and I'm gonna bring about the idea of the water bottle. I have had a lot of instruction around different understandings of the body, and one of the ways that has really helped me to understand the link between mental health and physical health was a workshop I took so long ago, and there's so much to it, but what she was really talking about is how, if you imagine that you are this empty vessel, this is you, and you are born empty. And this is the opposite of how do you fill your cup. This is how do you empty your cup? Because you're born empty. But like literally you're born, which is traumatizing in itself. So your first trauma is birth. And then like however your parents treat you, however your mom responds to your cries or your needs, your mom in general is her own dysfunction, since you are a part of her nervous system for 9 months and then an extension of her nervous system for another 9 months. This really helps to shape how you are going to process trauma. And so as when you go into the trauma informed lecture, there's this definition of trauma as not being what happens to you, but really like trauma is what you do with what happens to you, how you process. And that can be affected by many different things. One of them being like old unprocessed trauma. And so this is why, because as you move through your life and things happen to you, now there is physical trauma, right? There are things that happen to us, like how do you handle that? And as events continue to happen in your life, how do you process based on the way that your parents have taught you to process? How do you think you do at processing your trauma? So if you do well, great. So processing trauma is like dumping out some of the liquid, okay? Not processing trauma, something like self-care, or the opposite of self-care is like not recognizing that that's choking back your emotions. It's so many things that allows the water within your cup to continue to fill. And so without, processing trauma, this will continue to fill until there's nowhere else for it to go but to boil over or fall over or whatever you want to call it. It gets so full that it starts to overfill. And then you have water running down the sides, and then anything that is added is just like, that's it. It's just like running over the sides. And this can be PTSD, this can be autoimmune disorders, this can be just depression, this can be so many things. And so what's really important is this processing of the trauma and how you do it. And there are many ways to do this. And restorative is one of them. Yoga Nidra is another one. And then there is like specific nervous system discharges that you can do, like heel drops and other such things as shaking and dancing. All really great practices to help you to process trauma and process the somatics or the feelings within your body. Yeah, there's so much I want to say, but I know that we have so many other classes and courses to look at as well. So I'm just going to leave it there and hope that this is really landing and, again, like confirming and supporting you and recognizing, like, restorative yoga is this. Yoga Nidra is this. Shaking and dancing is this. Okay. And the more that we do that, the more we can empty or release or process what's inside of us. And if we're not doing any of it because we're so busy, we're storing trauma. And at some point it's going to overflow, and the overflow is heart disease. The overflow is high blood pressure. The overflow is a lot of these chronic ailments that we deal with. And we want to make it so that we don't get to there, because preventative health is so much stronger than post development health. Either is helpful though, right? Because if you have it, you're not like a lost case. It's just be better if you don't get it. So that's where I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to see you in the next video.